I'm Amy Henderson, the assistant head teacher who oversees Year 7 and transition. And I'm really pleased that you could make it this evening to the virtual parents information evening. Hopefully the information I share with you this evening will be helpful, but it's all around just setting up the year really, and just certain things that it's useful for parents to be aware of in terms of messages they're sharing with students also. So I wanted to start with sharing kind of the things we're going to cover during the course of this evening. And that will include introductions to key stats, so key names that many of you will already know, some of you may not. Curriculum information, more so where you'll find this information, so it's useful for you to access at any point that you want to. Home learning and home study information, our assessment processes, which will include course setting, reading and our kind of approach to reading. Many of you might be aware of this already. Learning habits in Scholar, the conduct stuff, the Scholar habits that we teach our students to have. You've probably heard many of your children talking about this already. The enrichment opportunities that will be coming up as of next week. Digital safety, communication, how we will communicate over the course of the year, uniform and attendance, specifically some key safety messages that we've shared with students and we want to share with you, and some key dates for Year 7 that we think you will find useful. So I will get started. So this is the setup of our year team. So we have Alice Giroux, who is one of our deputy head teachers at Chorlton High School, oversees Year 7 and 8. All email addresses are on the PowerPoint as well, which you will have access to in terms of this will go on our website also. There's myself, who is the assistant head teacher, overseeing Year 7 specifically, and obviously transition. Then we have a head of lower school, or head of Key Stage 3, and that's Claire Wilson. So Claire is someone that works really closely with 7, 8 and 9. Many of you will communicate with her around things like personal development, but Claire will oversee all things kind of form time, tutor curriculum, things like that. We have Maxine Baxter, who is the head of Year 7. So obviously Maxine was the head of Year 11 who's just left, and she is now in charge of Year 7. And then we have Danielle Prendergast, who is our learning mentor. So Danielle will work with students that require additional mentoring. She'll work really closely with them. So, you know, we generally will refer students to Danielle. But if you've got any questions about that, please just contact one of your team, and all our email addresses are on there. So that's the year team. And I've just spoke a little bit about Year 11 who just left, but we did want to share with you as parents a record-breaking moment really, which is our recent GCSE results. This year we achieved a record-breaking set of results for our school at all measures. And most importantly, we achieved the most number of high grades than any school in Manchester. So we're obviously very proud of this. We're very proud of our recent leavers, and we just want to give them a big shout out. Miss Baxter, who is obviously head of Year 7 now, worked incredibly hard with this year group, and that will continue into Year 7 with your children also. Okay, so we have an extensive curriculum at Chorlton High School, which I could spend hours now talking about, but we thought actually it's best for you to understand where to access this on our website. So it is on our website. So if you click on Parent, there are hubs for Year 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. If you click on your year group hub, in there you will find the curriculum. So you just click on that tab and it has broken down curriculum in all curriculum areas, all subject areas that your child will access. It's a really useful piece of information if you want to know what's coming up. That might be some cultural capital stuff you might want to do with your children. You can find all that information there. If you do have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to contact us in regards to this, we'll be happy to help there as well. We have a brilliant form time curriculum. I'm sure your children have come and spoke to you about their form tutors who are, brilliant tutors, and they will do their character tutor curriculum with them. And this covers all aspects of personal development. And it's all about building our strong community belonging, which we take really seriously at Taunton High School, helping to strengthen students' character, equip them with the skills, qualities and understanding to become, successful, creative and happy individuals who will go on to become positive contributors to the wider society. In year 7, that curriculum takes the form of 6 mantras, I guess, and they will have access to collect all 6 badges over the course of the year. So over the course of the year, you will see your child come home with the first badge they're doing is I embrace life and prepare to succeed. Different badges on their labels just to say they've achieved that badge for the half term. Importantly though, if they didn't achieve the badge in the half term specified, they can still achieve it over the course of the year. So it goes through 6 different things and it follows them through the year, and it's a wonderful journey. It really encourages them to kind of work together as a community, as a form community, to achieve these badges. So that's our form time curriculum. Home learning. So home learning, I have sent a message to students and staff around home learning. So in terms of home learning, they've probably received some home learning already, but I've asked students to use these first few weeks to get used to routines. We are aware this is all new to them, and so getting used to when it's a good time to complete the home learning for them at home, what time they want to start, is really important. So I've asked them to do that and use this time to kind of, really inform themselves about what works best for them. Obviously, we have a set kind of expectation for home learning for year 7. At the moment, this week, they are in computer rooms, logging on to our MS Teams, so they can get used to that site, which is where all homework will be set. So they are currently doing that. As they are logged on, that's when they'll have better access to kind of what homework they've got and when it needs to be complete by. But the expectation is that students do 1 hour of English, maths and science homework a week, as well as reading. Additionally to that, they'll have 1 hour of language homework as well, and up to 1 hour per fortnight of the humanities subjects, geography, history, and up to an hour per fortnight of computer technology. And all of the subjects will be half-term and term creative projects that they will complete as part of their home learning. So that's the expectation for home learning. In terms of home learning, the home study site on our website provides a kind of one-stop shop for home learning and home study. So if you go onto the home study site on our website, you can access that. The student will need to log into their Microsoft Teams, and they can access everything to one click then. So if they're going into an online site, so English, for example, might use Educate, they can click on that and then they can access that through there. So that's kind of where we are. But beyond that, I think if your child has any concerns with homework, please ask them to speak to their teachers directly. They will support them. This is a process that we know is very, very new to year 7. We know they do some homework in primary school, but it is a different level when they come to secondary school. So we will support them through that. I will talk later on about an opportunity where you'll be able to move to school as well. So if you've got any questions, we'll have someone there to support with home learning. For any problems around home learning, please don't hesitate to contact us if you need to contact us, but also ask your child to speak to their teachers. They will really support them with it. Another thing we do quite consistently is revision. So I will go through the assessment system and just explain how we kind of we walk them through that process over the course of 5 years. Really, that's a 5-year journey that they're on. In terms of maths homework will be set on Sparks, which is an online system. Homework is an hour long for each year group, unless it's completed within an hour. And the reason we say it 1 hour is because some students may find that it takes, they've been set a task, and that might take a student an hour and a half or 2 hours. And we don't want students to spend more than an hour. So if they don't finish the task in the time, in the hour, that is their homework completed. That's really important. There is a support for maths homework. It's the Sparks Club that runs every Thursday after school in S71. Students will have this information shared with them as they move forward in their maths lessons. That's similar in English, science and computing. So you will, we don't want them to spend longer than an hour on their homework. If it is taking longer than that, then that's when we ask students to stop, because actually it's really important that they are kind of pacing themselves and not spending longer than they need to. In terms of MFL, French and Spanish homework is set on Quizlet, and that's a similar situation as well. For all subjects, home learning will be set using assignments on Microsoft Teams. But all teachers will set, regardless of if the homework is online or if the homework is they've been given paper to put in their books, if it's a piece of paper homework that, something that they're doing in their books, the assignment itself will be set online so they can check what homework they've got over the course of the year. In terms of supporting home study, as a parent, we want home study to be done independently. So we want students to be doing the home study independently. It's not homework for parents, and we really feel strongly about that. This is not giving you additional work to do. It's nice for you to sit down and discuss your homework with your child, maybe plan it, help them with their routines as they're getting used to it. Because the other side of this is it's important for your child to maintain their social calendar and any other after school activities that they've got. So making sure homework is working into their schedule at not just their best times, but the family's best time is really important. And we do ask parents to support students in finding out when that best time is for them in terms of when they will complete their homework. Every child has strengths and weaknesses when it comes to subjects. Homework is just about them independently trying at home. It might be flipped learning, it could be a creative task, it could be some pre-learning. All we ask for parents to really think about is where they can do their homework in a space that's quiet, that they can concentrate. We really do encourage students not to be on phones if they have phones, to have them put away when they're doing their homework. It's really important that they're not distracted and they're spending that time focused on those things. One of the other things we talk a lot about with students is revisiting learning. So, if, for example, they've got English tomorrow, it's really good practice and really good routine just to kind of have a look through their English book and just see what it is they were learning last lesson, just revisiting that learning, just gets their brains going ready for that next day. So that's just a bit of advice that parents can support us with and support their child with. That'd be really, really good. In terms of assessment, we will test students using CAP tests and PASS tests in the autumn term. And this is purely so we have a better understanding of our students' potential and support them with target setting. We do not require students to do any revision for any of our online tests. This is just to have a measure of where students are. It's information for us. It's not important for them. It's not something we will use to set or anything like that. We won't use it for things like that. It just gives us some really good information about patterns in the year group, and we use that then for planning. So obviously I will personally speak to students about this in assembly, but it's not something that we ever want them to feel pressured about. It's trying their best in the moment when they do it, which we plan by us, and it's nothing at all to worry about. You will know they've already done a reading test. We are redoing some of them based on Key Stage 2 data, for example, where it's not where actually Key Stage 2 might be higher than the reading test has come out. We were aware they did it on induction day, so some students may have kind of clicked through too fast, or there's lots of reasons why that might have not gone particularly well. And if that's the case, we're working through maybe retesting a few of those students, retesting those students full stop. But it's nothing for them to worry about. That's just so we've got accurate reading test information. Students, teachers, sorry, do use reading ages as a way to kind of possibly look at their classroom, just to make sure where students sat. It just gives us a bit of information in terms of their access to the curriculum. So it is important information, the reading test, but again, it's nothing to be prepared for. Just doing the reading that we're expecting them to do, which I'll go through a bit later on, is all that we ask of students. So it's really, in terms of assessment, students will do little mini assessments within class, but we have a cycle of 2 learning cycles where we complete something called progress tests at the end of each learning cycle in all subjects. These take place in spring 1 and summer 2, and they always focus on learning from the previous half terms. So previous half terms that have gone by. So the first one will focus on the autumn term, and the second one will be a bit of a summary of all of it, with a bigger focus on what's being taught in spring and summer. So that's how we test students. They'll be given, it's a really lovely process in terms of them learning how to prepare for revision. We teach them different revision strategies. So in year 7, we start with mind maps, and we just go through the 5 years, introducing different revision strategies, getting them used to revision timetables, so they can, get used to that scenario and find out what works best for them. In terms of revision techniques, some revision techniques work better for different subjects, or they just find some that work better for them in terms of their learning. It's just a way of kind of finding out that information. But one thing that I do want to really stress here is that I will go through this again in the spring term. At the start of the spring term, I will go through everything to do with progress tests and give you a lot more detailed information there. You don't need to really think about that or worry about that. It's just really to highlight that we do have 2 learning cycles and 2 lots of progress tests in every subject over the course of the year, during which students will be introduced to different revision strategies. These are for us, these are for staff and teachers to really understand where students are at and what we need to do to move them forward. That is what that is about. So there's nothing else to be concerned with there. It's just so we know where the gaps are and what we need to do to move them forward. So that's progress test. You will get a report at the end of this that has their results on, obviously, that they got in their assessment, but it will also have effort grades on there. So the way we do effort grades at Chalton High School is 1 is excellent and 4 requires improvement. And obviously we want them all to be at 1, at that top effort. And one of the things that we kind of stress and we know works is the best indicator for success is effort. Some students take a little bit longer to get on top of progress, but if they're putting in the effort consistently over the 5 years, they will do very well. That is a fact. And we've seen it year in, year out. We know that effort is the key indicator of future success. So we really do focus on that at Chalton High School. And we would like parents to kind of really celebrate that. When you get the reports, it'll have effort grades for the individual subjects. Celebrate the 1s, celebrate the 2s. 2's good effort as well. We only really need to be concerned if we're getting down to 3s and 4s. That's where we want to kind of, we'll be working with the school to kind of improve that effort. Because at Chalton High School, we focus a lot on habits for learning. Good habits for learning just really do propel students. And if we want them all to be successful, creative and happy, which we obviously do, we know that those habits are really, really important to embed right from the start, and we work really closely with them on that. In terms of setting in core subjects, I just want to give a bit of information around what that looks like for year 7. So in English, students will be mixed ability, and that is a genuine mix of academic attainment across every classroom. At the moment, they're still being taught in forms, but that will change at the end of this half term. And the reason it's currently like that is because obviously we've got their SATs results, we've got reading information. We also like to have that kind of personal teacher information as well, just to inform the genuine mixed ability classes that students will be in. That will be the case in science also. However, in maths, there will be a level of streaming. So groups 1 to 3 will be the top band maths. Groups 4 to 5 will be middle, and group 6 will be the lower band. And that's just to help with support of students that need that little bit more when it comes to maths. Maths is a little bit more of a tricky subject to have as a mixed ability subject, which is why we've decided to go for a streaming approach to maths in year 7. One of the big questions I always get asked, and so we kind of want to be upfront with you about this and I think we've mentioned it before, but it's important that I mention it now, are the pathway choices as students move through Chorlton High School, just so you're aware of what to expect. So at the end of year 7 into year 8, students will choose which MFL subjects, or Spanish or French, they will take forward. There will be an option for them to continue with both. And delivery on this will obviously depend on how many students opt for it, and whether we can offer a full class when it comes to timetable in that. So there is still that option as they move into year 8, but generally in year 7, students choose to specialise in one subject. That doesn't limit them. So if, for example, your child chooses at the end of year 7 to look at Spanish, and in their GCSE options, they've actually kept on top of French and they want to continue with French and they've changed their mind, that will be absolutely fine. So it doesn't limit them at that point, just to kind of, it's just allowing them to focus. They get more timetable time on that one subject as they move into year 8. In year 8 into 9, currently, students will choose an art elective. So students will be given options to focus on an art subject of their choice. So they will still complete the other subjects, but it will be given more time as part of their curriculum for the art subject that they choose to focus on. So again, this doesn't limit them. If at the end of year 9, they've chosen, for example, music, and they think that's not really for me, I prefer to do art, they can absolutely make that switch. That isn't something that will limit them as they move into year 9, because it is in year 9 as they move into year 10 that they will choose their option subjects for GCSE. So that they are the current pathways when it comes to year 7 up through to year 9. So they're the pathway choices that they will have over the course of those 3 years. We just thought it was important for parents to be aware of that as we move through. I've mentioned reading a few times already in this presentation. We really value reading at Chorlton High School. We know it's important. It's undeniable. The research reinforces it year in, year out. Reading is really important, and we are aware as students get older, reading becomes less desirable to them, but it is something that we will continue to push. So we ask the students to read for 20 minutes every day. That 20 minutes does not need to be in one block. They can break it up into 5-minute blocks if they want to. They could, however it fits them best, is absolutely fine. We are asking students to bring in a reading book to school in the morning at form time. They will always read that book in the form time, but we do ask to see the book so we can keep on top of what students are reading within school also. So it's not just a parental push, it's also it's a push from us too at school. As part of their form time curriculum, they do something called community reading. So the form group gets to pick a novel. I think it's a choice of about 7 novels. They get to pick a novel to read, and once every week, the teacher will read to the students, and they'll read this novel over the course. It's usually a term, and then they'll start another novel the term after. However, that sometimes takes longer. It sometimes doesn't take as long as that. It depends on the form group and the tutor. But that's really about fluency and then listening to quality reading, because we know from research that's really important also. So reading is something that we want parents to continue to push with their child. And my biggest piece of advice is, if your child is kind of, oh no, you know, they're saying things like, I just don't like anything, I don't know what to read. Our librarians are incredible. The library's open to year 7 after school every evening. Please get them to go there. They will help them find something that fits their hobbies or their likes, to find something to read, and they'll work with them as many times as they need to for that to be the case, until they find that thing that they are enjoying. I am actually going to host tutor evening, which I'll talk about in a bit, for parents in the library as well. So you'll get an opportunity to come in, and if you want to have that conversation with the librarians, they'll be there to have that conversation also. And so I've talked a lot about effort being really important, habits being really important, and our learning environment at Chalton High School is just as important. It's making sure that we empower students at all times to challenge themselves, follow their passions, and be successful learners. We talk about it being a calm and focused environment. You know, I've had the absolute pleasure to visit year 7 lessons, and they're stunning. You know, how engaged, how much attention is being paid is just, it is really, really special, and has been just really, I've been really proud to go in and be part of this year group. We talk about having habits and routines. We talk a lot about habits and routines as part of our assemblies, a part of our perform times. Everything has a habit and routine at Chalton High School, which is why, you know, you've probably got really tired children at the moment. And hopefully I explained to students in assembly on Friday, it will be very overwhelming because they're taking on a lot of information every day at the moment, but soon it will just become routine to them. It'll just become a habit, and that takes out some of the working memory, so they can focus that on the learning, the academic curriculum, because they've got these good habits and routines set up. We also, though, talk about embracing struggle and repetition. We know how important repetition is to learning, but also we know how important it is to get things wrong and for things not to be particularly easy all the time. That's where we learn best. That's how we learn. So we talk about that as being a really important learning environment here at Chalton High School. We repeat these messages in assemblies, at form time. It is something that they will absolutely get used to, and it supports our drive with Scholar. We call them CHS Scholars at Chalton High, over the 5 years that they are with us. So I've just mentioned Scholar. Currently, we're focused on 2 of our Scholar habits. So the first one is organisation, organising mainly their exercise book, and attention. So in terms of organise and how parents can, we talk about stepping up their learning, and there's a routine for them to be able to ensure that they're starting their lessons off strongly, making sure that their books make sense to them, because ultimately their books are for them. And make sure they can revisit learning in their books and it makes sense, the way that they set it out, making sure that they are, you know, using the right equipment, they're preparing to, you know, succeed and make progress at all times. We thought it'd be nice just to share with parents how you can support the organised habit, actively looking at exercise books. They may not bring all their exercise books home, but they certainly will bring some of their exercise books home. Celebrating books that look presented really well, that, you know, the handwriting is neat, that they, you know, it really makes, they've really thought about where they're putting information that they can go back to. Another way you can support us is ensuring that they've got the stationery they need to achieve the presentation that we need from them. Things like pen, pencils, ruler, highlighter. I mean, additionally, it'd be great if they had a glue stick, but we do provide them. So please, that's, you know, it's not something that we expect every student to have. And just encouraging your child to revisit their learning from their exercise books. If they've got their exercise book at home, preparing for the next day, going through that previous learning is just really, really powerful. The second habit we're focusing on this half term is attention. And if you ask them what stars are, I think they will be able to tell you already. But you know, we know that what they're paying attention to is what they're learning. And if attention is lost, learning is not happening. So where this habit is most effective, we get the biggest success in terms of student progress. So in terms of supporting us with that, ensuring your child comes to school ready to learn, that they've had a good night's sleep, that's really important, because we know attention can be lost if they're tired, or, you know, they've not had that good night's sleep. You know, asking them what questions, what they've been doing in the lesson, you know, particular lesson, and in their English lesson today, just getting them engaging in those conversations can be really powerful for you to see the kind of attention that's being paid as well. But we are actively working on these habits with students, these routines, but that they're just some ways that you might be able to support us. In terms of enrichment, you will receive loads of information about this in the coming week and next week. So enrichment starts properly next week, and you will sign up for enrichment clubs via the Arbor app. There are lots of choices to make. I know lots of students audition for the musical, so I know many students have been taken up with that after school, but getting them, having a look through the booklet when you get sent it, making sure that really thought about what it is they want to focus on in terms of enrichment, what's interesting to them, what do they feel like is something they would enjoy spending after school time doing. So enrichment runs from 2:45 until 4:45. Like I say, all the clubs are available to be booked via Arbor app. When you receive the booklet that has all the options available to students in there, you can book it through there. Additionally, though, we also focus on extended learning experiences, and this is enrichment that takes part during the school day. So in autumn and in summer, we have what we call an ELI day. So they're extended learning experiences, and this is where we drop down the timetable and students will do different things, and it's all planned relevant to the year group. It includes things like working with professionals, maybe going on educational visits, learning a new skill. It's really exciting. Year 7 love ELI days. It's just a really good experience for them. So that will happen within school. There'll be trips as part of that also. In terms of other things we do things called social action plans. So plays, so students from year 7 to year 10 will watch at least one social action play in our Blue Box Theatre every year. That's people, theatres coming in and performing to them. They're usually interactive, and they allow students to reflect on key issues in society through the power of theatre. Examples of what we've done in the past: radicalisation, dangers of social media, obviously to get a bit older, knife crime. So students will also then be given opportunities to explore those themes that are being explored in their respective curriculum. So it all links together, but that is something that we do annually at Chorlton High School. We also have our year group enrichment community pledge. So we work with different charities. Each year group has a different charity to work with, and it's all around developing, you know, how we can be positive contributors to the world and work with our community, local, and you know, it being inclusive, supporting diversity. Year 7's charity this year is homelessness, and that's who we'll be working with. So everything we do, any charity drives that students or forms come up with, will all the money raised there will go to charities around homelessness. So we just wanted to share that with you. Okay, I'm coming on to digital safety, which is towards the end of the presentation, but I just want to remind parents about our recommendation about phones. So we are a no phone school. We do expect phones to be off and away all day. And our recommendation is that students are given basic phones. It's been pleasing to see a lot of these phones amongst our year 7 group. Obviously, smartphones are really distracting, and there's lots of research that show the negative sides of smartphones. So we recommend, if you feel like your child needs a phone for whatever reason that might be in terms of contact, so you know they've got to school on time, etc. Our recommendation is that phone is a basic phone, and we keep them away from smartphones for as long as we possibly can, because we do need to think about digital safety. Just some tips, and students will get told about this as part of all our computing stuff. So please don't worry, but just some tips for parents, making sure that we're thinking about passwords and account security. So these are the messages, making sure we're mixing up our passwords, making sure they're using special characters, avoiding anything too common that can just be guessed. You know, if it's your pet's name, it's not going to put it as a password. So we really, really do encourage you to work with your child, keeping them safe online with their passwords. You know, we will go through this, but when they're online, making sure we're checking the sources of information. You know, we need to be questioning the source. Is it based on fact or opinion? Is it too good to be true? We all know that if something's too good to be true, it's generally not. Feeling comfortable talking things through with adults that they've seen online is really, really important. And if students are worried about anything, and this is important for parents to know as well, they can use the COP button on our website to report anything that is alarming when they're online, and that, you know, and that then can be investigated. It's not investigated by school, that's separate to us, but it's a really important method for us to keep on top of their internet safety, because we know that is really important. Social media. So we know there are lots of social media apps available to students, and they increase year on year. And I know myself, as someone that works with teenagers, you would think I'd know all of them by now, but genuinely I can't keep on top of all the different social media apps that they have available to them. We recommend that we are definitely checking the age restrictions for social media. I feel personally that no one in year 7 should be on social media. Not just because of the age range, but because of, you know, their age. You know, social media is a lot for anyone to handle, adults included, and it's really, really important that we are protecting them from, you know, things that they might see on social media. However, if you have allowed this, it's just really important that we keep the access secure. We've got all settings really locked down. Apps like TikTok and Instagram, Snapchat are really tricky to lock down. So it's just something to be mindful of when you're having those conversations with your children. Keeping them safe on these apps is very, very difficult. So, you know, obviously, ideally, they don't use these apps. That's the preference. But if they do, it is going to require a lot of parental guidance and a lot of parental checking to make sure that they are being safe on these apps. A big kind of warning is location services, making sure they are disabled. We do not want your children to be easily found by location services on these apps. It's really important that they are turned off on their phone, because obviously that just it's a level of danger that we don't want our year 7 students to have. We don't want any of our students to have. So that's, you know, obviously, as a parent, you choose what you think is appropriate in terms of safety digitally, but our advice is that they don't need social media at this very young age, and it's not something that they are missing out on by not having it. It's a really good position for them to be in, not being on these apps. I do want to say that, you know, accounts for TikTok, I can't even say that correctly. Accounts for TikTok are 13 to 17, and the screen time is set to 1 hour. I would just be really mindful of TikTok. It's out of all of them, one of the apps we are concerned about the most. It's the one that seems to have the least control behind it. So just be mindful of that. They're very sophisticated in terms of their algorithms. We just need to be aware that if they are on these apps, we need to be checking them, because there really is a cause for concern when it comes to emotional distress and the things that they might see or receive on these apps. So I'm going to get off my soapbox on that one. Apologies for that. There is the National Online Safety website, which has a lot of resources for parents to support them with the latest apps and websites and trends. So if you do have any concerns, you can check this further. I would say that when it comes to checking their mobile phones, our children become very, very clever with mobile phones, much faster than we do. Technology seems to be their thing. And, you know, I'm just going to tell a personal story. So I know someone that was checking their child's mobile phone routinely, and it turned out that all of the apps that their child was not allowed to be on, or they didn't want checking, were behind a calculator, what looked like a calculator app. So it didn't seem to be something that needed to be checked, but cleverly, if you clicked onto that, that's where you got onto all the apps that they didn't want checking, or they were on things that they shouldn't be on. So just being up to date with what we do find out around the use of phones, and particularly smartphones, which is why we recommend that they don't have smartphones. It's something to be mindful of. They're very clever with how they come up with different things, how they can hide things. And I'm not saying that's your child in any way, but as they get older, it's just something to be really mindful of, because if they've got access to these devices, yes, we need to be checking it. Yes, we need to be managing screen time, all of those things, but just be mindful that there are a lot of ways around parents checking phones. They find ways around it. So just this National Online Safety is really, really good, just to give us more information about what's new. And it's as up to date as we can be when it comes to how clever some of these apps have come to hiding things that maybe students don't want to be seen. In terms of managing screen time, too much screen time, especially just before bed, really affects the quality of sleep. I've talked about attention, and that's a surefire way for them not to be able to pay attention in class the next day, losing sleep, not sleeping well. We highly recommend, additionally to them not having smartphones, if they've got them, that their screen time is limited and that their phones are not in their bedrooms in the evening. They don't need to be there. It's really important that they get into those habits of prioritizing sleep. I can recommend reading before bed. I find that is the best way to relax for myself personally, but they don't need their phones to do that. That's not relaxing before bed. That's not going to help them get to sleep at a decent time. So it's just something to be really mindful of. Okay, I've only got 2 more slides, 3 more slides, sorry, and then I promise you I will let you go. So communication. We have a communication charter, and we communicate in lots of ways. And you'll have noticed we send letters. We send a 2 weekly newsletter which celebrates really what students have been doing over the course of the week. Hopefully you've all, if you have got Instagram, you are following our school Instagram. There are updates on there over the course of the week also. But in terms of our communication charter, which is also available on our website, just some key things to be mindful of as a parent, just so you know kind of what the messages teachers are getting really as well. So response time from teachers will be obviously within 3 working days, within working hours. Now, obviously, the priority for our teachers is teaching the children. That will always be our priority. So if you do need to contact them, there will be a bit of a delay in terms of communication, but they will get back to you. Please direct your communication to the relevant curriculum leader or teacher if your inquiry is subject-based, or the head of year if it's more of a general nature. That's kind of how we we ask you to direct your questions. Please feel free, if you're ever emailing any of those people, to CC me in. I like to know questions that are being asked, so I can, you know, if I need to get involved, I will get involved. That's absolutely fine. I've got no problem with that. Please feel free to CC me into any communication you want to send. In terms of communication by telephone, if you call main reception, it's highly likely teachers will not be available. Obviously, that's due to the fact that they will be in classrooms. But if there's something urgent, let the receptionists know it's urgent, and they will contact their head of year or a member of the senior leadership team. So if it's urgent, that's call and let them know it's urgent, and they will try and make that contact much quicker. So that's just an important message for parents to be aware of. In terms of meetings, meetings at secondary school, at Taunton High School, should always be pre-arranged with the member of staff you want to meet with. And we always aim to plan a meeting within 5 working days of it being requested. If you would like a summary version of the communication charter, please visit our website. Everything that you ever want to know is on the website. So if you're ever kind of wondering, that's where to go. This slide is linked to the other one. What we've decided to do this year is, under parents, there's a parental notice board, and any of the kind of big letters, so that are being sent to all parents, so not individual letters, will be on the notice board in a summarised version. That's if we are aware sometimes lots of information can be sent out, but the most key information will be on this notice board, and that will get updated as and when it needs to be updated. So if you want to kind of go, right, I'll just check that on a Friday, it might not be updated every week, because like I said, not the individual like subject stuff would go on this. It's the big messages, maybe about return to schools and events that might be coming, etc. That will be on the notice board or on our school calendar. So please feel free to focus on that if you find that less overwhelming, because we are aware it can be overwhelming. I do want to mention Arbor. I apologise, I've actually lied. There's a few more slides than I thought there were. But I do want to mention Arbor. In terms of payments for school lunches, our school is cashless. So the reval machines that currently we can put cash in are being taken away this half term. So any money for schools, for school dinners, etc., need to be put on via the Arbor app. How to do that is on our website. So please visit there if you're not sure, but most parents I know have already done this, so I know that this is not new to most parents. We do offer free breakfast in the morning from 8 AM. So if students want to come and they are still hungry when they get to school, do encourage them to come access free breakfast. I've been really impressed with Year 7, because many of them do so. It's lovely to see, and it is there for them. And also at break time, if they don't have money on their account, or for whatever reason they were not expecting to be hungry at break time, but they are, we offer free porridge, toast and fruit. So students are welcome to go get that if they require it. And then we have obviously other things that students can buy. Okay, uniform. First, I'm going to start with an apology for all the parents there that have bought ties that they haven't received, or their child hasn't received. It's a supplier issue that we are dealing with. We are hoping this week we get a smaller selection of ties that will mean that at least every child's got at least one tie, because that's not the case currently, and obviously they don't need to worry about that one bit. That's not on them, but they are coming. They've had to go back to manufacturer, I think, but we've got, I think it's 70 ties due to come in. So we are, fingers crossed, getting them very soon. And as soon as we do, they will be distributed equally among students that don't already have them. And then any parents that bought additional ties, as soon as we get that next shipment of ties, they will all be shared out, given out appropriately based on what has already been bought by parents. So we do apologise for that. It's been not an ideal start to the year for us in terms of uniform, because we're talking a lot about looking our best. So in terms of Year 7, we expect blazers on, equipment ready, and we're using equipment ready cleverly, hopefully, so your children are not losing too many things, because we know that they may forget equipment at the start of year 7. They're not used to carrying things around yet. So we, in lineups after break and lunchtime, we're talking about, have you all got your equipment? Is it ready? So it's forcing them to really think about their bags, which often, you know, can go missing because they've left them somewhere. Shirts tucked in all the way around and tied to the top. So that's what we're talking about in terms of perfect uniform. But we just kind of want to come to parents and say, if you are struggling in any way with purchasing the uniform, please contact the year team, because we will be able to help. We can, you know, supply them. If it's a one-off, we'll supply them with the missing item. Obviously, where that becomes a routine thing, we will be asking some questions about, you know, conduct and choices that are being made in terms of prioritising uniform and making sure that they're prepared for school, and that we will support them. If they wear the incorrect item, we'll ask them to change into the correct item, which we'll supply them with, or we'll ask parents to bring in, dependent on the situation. But, you know, that's kind of where we fall with uniform. But the big thing that I wanted to say is, if you are struggling at all with any of the uniform, purchasing any of the uniform, please contact us, because we will definitely be supporting you with that. Safety. So we've had a few concerns being raised to us about incidents outside of school, after school, in Charlton Park. Currently, this is not any of our students, but last year it was some of our students. But there's some students have been targeted in the park at the end of the school day. And we just want to make sure that students are being safe walking to and from school, with a few key messages. Again, these will be shared with students as well. We don't want them to walk home alone through the park, or any other areas that may be considered shortcuts. They need to be in groups if they're walking through the park. Ideally, they'll avoid the park and walk around the park, because we know that that's been a problematic area. Do not stop to talk to any strangers that, you know, they may meet. Ignore any drivers who might slow down to speak to them. But if they've got any concerns, tell them please to talk to a member of staff, or if they speak to you, can you let us know, please, as soon as possible. Making sure that when they are on pavements, they're all walking sensibly, particularly if they're in a group, making sure that they're not kind of taking up too much of the space, just to make sure that other people can also walk around as well. When they're crossing the road, Sam, this again comes back to phones. Stop and look in both ways and listening. It's very common that students put earpods in when they get out of school grounds to listen to, you know, maybe their music or a podcast, or they're looking at their phones, and it's really dangerous when they're crossing the road. So, you know, they need to be aware of their surroundings at all times. We don't want students walking around with earphones in after school. They need to be able to hear what's going on around them and put their phone away if they have got a phone. It's really, really important. So that's just, it's nothing to worry about. I don't want to panic anyone there. Like I say, it's one or two incidents that have happened, but we will always be upfront and honest with parents that this has come from a different school, this information. It's not Charlton High School that these incidents have happened, but we will always share information like that if we feel like, you know, we need to kind of make sure students are just a bit more aware. When we speak to students about this, we'll do so in a very calm way, where it'll just be safety messages. It won't be any, you know, talking about anything specific. It's important that they are just aware of their safety as they are walking to and from school. Attendance. Attendance really does make a huge difference. I promise you there is 2 more slides this included. It does really make a big difference. And our attendance team is amazing in terms of communicating with students and parents. They do this via email, text, sometimes via calls. They might do home visits. You know, we will always support our parents in helping, you know, children come to school as much as possible. We have lots of things that we offer in terms of attendance, and we obviously do follow the national and local policy when it comes to things like penalty notice prosecution. That's, you know, that's us just being honest that we know we have to follow that. It's really, really important that students attend as much as they possibly can. Now, with that, people get ill, and we are aware of that, and that is okay. It's just, if it's something they can attend school for, we would prefer them to be in school, ideally. And we offer lots of rewards when it comes to attendance. We celebrate attendance highly at school, and there is a reason for it. Again, when you look at future success and you look at attendance, there is an undeniable link when it comes to education and success. So we will always be a school that value attendance at school. We want our students to have a sense of belonging at our school. We want them to want to be there. And actually we know that the more time that students have off, the less belonging they feel, that less, you know, they don't feel like they belong as much, and we want to avoid that moment for them. You know, we want them to feel like they belong to us, and we belong to them, and it, you know, because it's a really important part of Chorlton High School and our offer. Final thing, and I apologise because this has taken a lot longer than it should, but hopefully it's been useful. We do have some key dates to share with you for the year. There'll be other things going on. We do have specific parent evenings where we might say to a group of Year 7 parents, or all of Year 7 parents, come see how we teach English at Chorlton High School if you want to come have a look at that. Different things. Digital safety might be something that we invite you in for, to look at something specific. So there'll be things that happen throughout the course of the year, but what we know for certain in terms of key dates is parent tutor evening. So it's an evening that will take place in the library. It's only a 5-minute appointment with their tutor, but it's an opportunity for you to look at the library with them, meet their tutor, and just check in with how because you'll have a certain viewpoint of how they've kind of transitioned into secondary school, and we'll have a different viewpoint, or possibly the same, but it's just a lovely time just to check in and see how they've settled into Chorlton High. And that is on the 2nd of October. It will take place, it will be bookable, so you'll be able to book the time with the tutor, and all information will come out to you how to do that, so please don't worry about any of that. But it'll be the 2nd of October from 4 p.m. till 6:30. So 4 p.m. till 6:30 will be a time that you can book with their tutor within that time, just to check in, see how they're getting on. They also have an in-person parents evening with their subject teachers. So the first one is just with their tutor. The next one is going to be with their subject teachers. That will be Thursday, the 7th of May. So it's much later in the year. Obviously, they're new to Chorlton High School, so we like to have Year 7 parents evening a bit later on. So it's later in the year, 7th of May, again, same time, between 4 and 6:30. You will receive effort reports, autumn 2 and spring 2, and you will receive academic reports, spring 1 and summer 2. So you'll receive a number of kind of end of term reports during them times. You will also get half-termly letters, which will include any key information that you need to know, and they'll be updated on the parent notice board. And we also send out a 2-weekly newsletter, which is just a lovely read in terms of finding out what your child has been getting up to, or what children at Chorlton High School have been getting up to. The next slide is not relevant, so I'm going to stop there. But thank you so much for attending this evening. I apologise for the length of it. It was supposed to be shorter than that, but hopefully some useful information. Please don't think you've got to remember it all. That's not the case at all. Everything we do will come through via communication or additionally to that. So thank you so much for coming, and I hope to see lots of you, if not all of you, at Parent Tutor Evening on the 2nd of October. Again, please don't hesitate to contact us if you need to ask any questions. Thank you so much. Take care.